From the time when humankind first began to draw together for comfort and safety, there have always been a few who held back, hill people, who clung to the highlands to cultivate their gardens in isolation. In southern Appalachia, there are families whose forebears came here nearly 2 centuries ago and settled down to preserve a way of life which satisfied them as nothing in the lowlands could do. They took contentment from small things. Somehow, spring was always a surprise. And they took strength from such larger things as the belief that the mountains gave them shelter. But they paid a price for the freedom of their life. Even ordinary comforts were hard to come by. There were few doctors in the mountains and no real roads to the towns. If they survived the childhood years, they might live to be very old. But the little hillside graveyards say how hard that survival could be. This region once had one of the highest infant mortality rates in the nation. 3 children in one family. Children who lived, as so many did, less than 2 years. Another who lived less than 1 day. Another 12 days. Barely long enough to become a person. It was to meet the needs of the children that the Frontier Nursing Service was founded. In time, the nurses brought healing and hope and a larger measure of life to all the hill people in their small domain. The uniform and the transportation have changed, but the principles have stayed constant for half a century. It all began when Mary Breckenridge, a Kentucky gentlewoman who served as a nurse in France after World War I, saw how much could be done for mothers and children in poor, remote areas by skilled nurse-midwives. Today, the Frontier Nursing Service operates a hospital, a training center, and 6 nursing outposts like this one. It has developed a concept of primary health care and community service, which has reached out into remote areas all over the world.
Can you shake that up? Can you shake that up? Huh? Shake that up?
The nurse-midwives continue to care for the babies they have delivered, to watch over their development.
You know how we
They
do
learn to know the children and their
Okay.
families and the atmosphere in which they grow up. Long ago, Mary Breckenridge put into words the principles she wanted the Frontier Nursing Service to follow.
Let's listen back here.
From the beginning, I had the wish to do the work so well and to keep such accurate records of it that others would study it, be trained in its techniques, and then in other remotely rural parts of our own and other countries, repeat the system we used. It would be possible for us to reach only a few thousand children directly, but hundreds of thousands of children could be reached by others because of us. Our inaccessibility was a priceless asset. None who wanted to copy our work could plead that it would be more difficult for them than it has been for us.
All the way out.
Open real big. Can you stick your tongue out at me like this? Can you do that? Atta boy. Let me just peek over your tongue here and we'll be done.
The important principle is familiarity with the patient and the patient's family. Parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters. Knowledge and concern about all which bears on their lives.
You getting your lessons okay from school?
Yeah.
Teresa bringing them home for you?
Yeah.
I think we can let you go to school tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
You better stay home and play cards with Scott, huh?
These are healing skills they have been taught to practice. In the training programs for midwifery and family nursing, they learn to assume responsibilities which may be theirs in the absence of a doctor. They study diagnosis and management of common health problems, maternal and child care, family therapy, community nursing, and much more.
I think first that we have to make you understand how important a very complete history is. I personally believe that 80% of your diagnosis can be made if you have searched through the proper clues, asked the right questions, and can put them together. You can then begin to decide what your diagnosis is. You then, of course, have to learn how to examine the patient and to find the physical findings that are going to prove.
They acquire a degree of sophistication in healthcare undreamed of in traditional midwifery, but basic to the needs of a nurse practitioner.
I think it would be helpful if I spend a little time bringing you up to date on some of the new terminology that's come out describing the two major viral hepatitides. I think most of you are familiar with some of the old words like infectious hepatitis and serum hepatitis.
Part of their training is under rigorous hospital conditions. This is coal mining, timbering country, where accidents and grave illnesses are no strangers.
And he went to work in the mines as an 11-year-old boy, leading the mules which pulled the coal cars. All right, I see the rest of Monday. Yeah, okay.
Does it hurt you any place
Yeah.
when you cough?
Raw and feeling through my chest.
Just when you cough or all the time?
Just from the cough.
Okay. Did you sleep last night?
Not much.
No? What kept you awake?
I just dream bad dreams.
The nurse and service creed holds that the health of the child is part of the health of the whole family.
Okay, now yesterday Barbara was looking at...
A father who suffers black lung disease or tuberculosis, not uncommon among coal miners, affects the life of his wife and children.
Could I look at it? You can put your shoe back on.
Reticence about personal matters and stoicism about pain and discomfort are fundamental to the character of the hillmen.
It's on the, what part of your back is it on?
But they have learned that the kindly probing of the nurses is for their own protection. So most of them submit with good grace.
Okay.
The poverty which once made this region so tragically famous is less acute than it was a generation ago. But the life of many of the people is still marginal. Healthcare has to be aimed at that reality.
You have a brown spot on your back. Do you have any place else?
The goal
No?
is a stronger family, a community of stronger families. There is no detail of their existence which does not have some bearing on that goal.
Something like that.
Health counseling takes into consideration the kind of house the patient occupies, the services he has access to, and the cost, to him, of any drastic changes in his routine.
Do you have an indoor bathroom? Do you have a cooking stove inside? Okay, are you going to be off work for the next few days?
Yeah, probably will.
Okay, I'm going to give you this medicine. You keep on taking those drops. Let me just write this up for you.
If he can be
Nobody else
cured
can
here, he will be. But he can always be helped. In the pediatric clinic of the hospital, the nurses get their most practical study of the young children, in whose behalf the service was originally established. Once, mothers would have postponed seeking help until a baby was seriously ill. Now they have learned that regular, knowledgeable observation of a baby's growth can sometimes make a vital difference. The hospital pharmacy not only supplies a dispensary, but distributes a standard kit of medicines to the nursing outposts. Recently, an important element of pharmacy activity has been the distribution of contraceptive pills, which the nurses have prescribed for their patients. Ten years ago, this county had the highest birth rate in the nation. Now the rate is slightly below the national average. Isolated and deprived these women may be, but the babies they have are the babies they want and plan for. With the strong and patient encouragement of the frontier nurses, 70% of the childbearing women in their territory have adopted some form of contraception. Betty is a coal miner's wife, like her husband, a product of these hills. To an outsider, theirs may seem a limited life, but it is almost literally the only one they can live. One time, Airlie tried to take his family away to the city to get a better job, but he used to waken in the night listening for the sound of the streams. Whatever money and opportunity the city offered were a poor substitute for the hill country. So they came home again, to stay. As the nurses patrol their parishes, they go more and more to the aid not of the children, but of the very old. In many of the modest houses along the roads and up the hollows, there are ancient people who are clinging to what little life they have left, and who need some nursing. It might seem simpler for everyone concerned to put the old people into nursing homes, but in general, this is not the way of the hill people. Away from familiar scenes and people, they would be miserable. The nurses know this and work accordingly.
Oh, Nancy Ann. Hi, Nancy Ann. How you doing? Good.
To the mothers and babies of their territory, the nurses may be friends and healers,
Okay, we're gonna go wash
but to the old, they are something more. The nurses are their links with the outside world, and with their own dimly remembered youth.
Is your leg hurting you at all?
The nurses bring what little ease they can, and above all, they act and are concerned. Like the very young, the very old need to be petted and comforted.
Well, we're gonna see if we can't do something to make your knee stop hurting. Okay? Let me put my things away here, and we'll finish up taking care of you.
Sometimes the young women come not on duty, but simply as friendly visitors,
Hattie, come in.
using the visits to learn more about the life of such families as have chosen to live on the one main highway, and take their entertainment from the unending passage of the cars and coal trucks. Caring for hill people imposes a need to understand their special qualities. The clan solidarity, which has disappeared from much of the world, is still strong here. The old people retain their importance in the family council, and a decision which affects any member of the family is likely to be made jointly. A nurse who wants to work effectively in remote rural surroundings needs to have a psychologist's knowledge of her people, their ills and weaknesses, of course, but also the memories they treasure and the things which make them laugh.
Of course, they have other snake bite medicine, you know, that's supposed to be preventative. You get it in a bottle.
I'm afraid of snakes.
I don't think she'd use it. I don't know. They tell me it works good. I don't know whether they just don't see the snakes or what happens. They probably just pass them on by.
Church is important to the hill people, It is more than a public expression of deep faith. It is a social encounter among people who live, by necessity, much to themselves. To the nurses, it is additional contact with their friends and patients, and one more dimension in their own lives. The nurses soon take on in their service something of the philosophy of those they serve. The roads which lead up the hollers have never really surrendered, even to a jeep. But many families live at the end of such roads. It is a matter of personal discipline to visit such families no less often than those who live along the highway. Today, the task is to make arrangements for Betty's 6-week postpartum checkup at the clinic. Transportation may be a problem. If Hurley's old car is running, he can bring her into town. If not, and it is usually not, the nurse will come up the creek to fetch her down to the clinic, then take her home again. It is time for a firm decision on a contraceptive, for Betty has 3 children. She really wanted that 3rd baby. That way, she said, there would be someone at home to keep her company when the older ones go off to school. Perhaps a coal miner's wife must always have a hostage against loneliness.
How's the baby? Well, hello, Polly. You're getting bigger every day. Oh, let's see. Ooh. Let me just look at it. I won't hurt it. You need to soak that and scrub it with soap and water. You're gonna. Can you just mix up some soapy water and just some warm water and make him stick his hand in it?
Diane mashed.
Ooh, Diane mashed your finger? That wasn't very nice. Yeah. Still working the evening shift in the line, honey?
Yeah.
Success in family nursing is founded on the creation of a climate of confidence.
Then it kind of rotates you around.
Because the nurse's advice has proved good, and her predictions came true, she is sure to be heard and heeded. She has become someone to trust, like bloodkin. In the old days, a midwife might have been respected because she was full of years and natural wisdom.
I'm trying to think when I'd be home.
This new midwife is just a slip of a creature, but she is a wise woman all the same. In many ways, this new pattern of midwifery and family nursing is a return to the old simplicities.
Okay, that'll be good enough.
'Tis our gift to be simple, 'tis our gift to be free, 'tis our gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. For when we find ourselves in the place just right, we will be in the valley of love and delight.
Betty, you've had this 3rd little baby 6 weeks ago, and you and your husband feel that 3 is about all you can manage.
Yes.
And education and everything that's required these days. Have you thought anything about what you would like in family planning? I see that you have used the pills before, and Judy told you about the contraindication for the pills now because of the trouble that you had with your veins and everything. You might have blood clots, which would be a very serious complication. Now, how about the loop? Have you thought of the loop, the intrauterine device?
Yes.
You're 29 and your husband's 26.
No, I'm
So
27.
You're 27? Oh, I beg your pardon. That's a bad mistake to make for a lady, isn't it? But anyhow, you've a long way to go on the loop. So have you ever thought of doing anything permanent about family planning, like a tubal ligation?
Yes, I have.
or your husband having a vasectomy. It's really the same thing in the male or the female. It's just cutting a bit out of the path so that there's no bridge there and you can't have fertilization taking place. And it's a permanent thing. Maybe you want your children to get a little further along in life before you do that, I don't know. But I think the thing to do today is for you to take the IUCD, for which there's no contraindication on your part, and then you can talk over with your husband about the permanent methods.
Okay.
And we'll call Judy. Judy's an experienced midwife and has had training in the insertion of the IUCDs, and she'll be glad to do it for you. Judy?
Let's Dr. Gilbert.
Betty and I have been talking about it, and she's going to talk to her husband about doing something more permanently, like a vasectomy or tubal ligation, but for the time being, she'd like to have an IUCD.
Very good.
So I should think that the Lapey's loop D would be good for her.
Okay, very good.
Mm-hmm.
We can take care of that for her.
All right. Okay, Betty. If you have any trouble, well, you come back, and we're always here to help you.
Thank you.
Out of this tiny stone chapel, nurses have graduated into 100 fields of service. Some will remain in Appalachia. Some will go into other parts of rural America or the trouble-torn inner cities. Still others will go to Latin America, Asia, the Middle East, Africa. 57 countries have welcomed the skills the frontier nurses have learned here. Ultimately, they will teach others that the care of the child is central to the care of the family, of the community, of the civilization.
Is to quote what Mary Breckenridge wrote in the very early years of the service. To meet the needs of the frontiersman's child, you must begin before he is born and carry him through the hazards of childbirth. Even after his birth, the young child is not an isolated individual. His care not only means the care of his mother before, during, and after his birth, but the care of his whole family as well. When a group of people take as their point of departure the young rural child and cherish the wish of serving him, they will be led by degrees into a full public health program on his behalf. So with these words, I wish you all well in whatever your future may hold for you.
Cherish the children, the least ones, the dear ones. They hold out tomorrows in their tiny hands. Give them their sunlight, show them their way, teach them that yesterday lives on in today. Love them and guide them, let them know what you know of joy and of sorrow, for in them you grow. Your love will go with them, your care hold their hand. Long after you've left them, they'll understand. To cherish their children, the least ones curiosity.